It was quite an eventful winter meetings for the New York Mets as the hot stove continues to heat up in Flushing. New York Post Mets beat reporter Mike Puma. He was out in San Diego with the coverage, and he joins me now for a winter meetings recap. Mike, are you glad to be back home on the East Coast?
Yeah, it's good to be back home. It was a busy week though for the Mets. They got a lot done.
They did indeed, which means it was a busy week for you. Now, Mike, this is what happened at the winter meetings. As you know, the Mets re-signed Brandon Nimmo. They signed Justin Verlander. They signed David Robertson and Jose Quintana, and they traded for Brooks Raley. What was the most important offseason move that the Mets made in the past week?
You certainly start with Verlander and Nimmo. Those were the two key guys they really had to get signed here, and uh, getting that rotation in line was very important here because you look at what happened last week with Jacob deGrom's departure and uh, all the free agent holes you had in there. You had to get an ace like pitcher in there. Justin Verlander certainly fits that description, but I wouldn't say that's any bigger than bringing back Brandon Nimmo because Nimmo, you look at what the center field market is. There's not a lot behind Brandon Nimmo, and you look at what he does for the lineup as a leadoff hitter. He's a good defensive center fielder. So had Brandon Nimmo gotten away, I don't know where they would have turned. But so that's a huge signing for them.
Yeah, bringing Brandon Nimmo back was definitely huge indeed. The leadoff hitter is back in the fold for the New York Mets. Now, the Mets, they still have other needs, and there's rumors that they could add another starting pitcher like Kodai Senga. How likely is it that Senga would sign with the Mets? And if he does, what would that mean for New York's rotation?
Yeah, saying is a possibility right now. And listen, we don't know a lot about him pitching over in Japan, but he's a pitcher who's scouting reports say he can hit triple digits on the gun, has a very good fork ball. Um, you wonder if coming down next year is going to be a pitch clock. The pitch clock gets instituted. You wonder Japanese pitchers are traditionally very deliberate, so that would be an adjustment, and also pitching in a 5-man rotation that will be an adjustment. Whereas over in Japan, they have basically a day where they pitch, whether it's Friday or Saturday. But Senga's certainly on the radar. But if that doesn't materialize, they could turn toward a Chris Bassett, Ross Stripling, Nathan Eovaldi. Those are some of the names still out there. But I think Senga, they like too the fact that signing him would perhaps make it easier in the recruitment of Otani if they decide to go that route next offseason.
Yeah, look at that. We're talking even about next offseason, which Mets fans, they can't believe. And speaking of the Mets fans, Mike, they've been waiting a pretty long time for ownership to spend money the way Steve Cohen has this offseason. How much more money can fans expect the Metropolitans to spend this offseason?
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the summer, I wrote an article basically speculating that if they wanted to keep most of the band together and field a competitive team next year, it would probably cost $345 million. Well, that number is looking a little conservative right now, because they could easily blow past 350 here, maybe toward the 375 mark. I don't think they'll get to 400, but I think they're certainly going to be in that 350 to 375 range, and Steve Cohen is leaving nothing to chance here. Doesn't want to leave any holes on the roster. Made the big splash immediately with Edwin Diaz, and then this past week really put his foot on the gas here. So, um, listen, it's a fun time to be a Mets fan because no player is really out of reach.
No player out of reach, and it's amazing to think that they could spend even more money this offseason. We'll see where that salary ends up for the Mets. We'll see how it all ends up at the end of this offseason. That is Mike Puma. He did a great job covering the Mets at the winter meetings. Mike, get some rest, and hopefully it's not too busy for you as this offseason continues.
Thanks a lot, Dexter.